Push forward, push forward. Show your hands, 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 hands. Hands, 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 hands. Pull him out. Grab his hand, pull him out.
It is crime time here on Closing Arguments. Let's bring in our special guest joining us tonight, former New York City Assistant Commissioner and former NYPD Sergeant Special Assignment, Dr. Keith Taylor. Keith served for 26 years as a public safety professional. He has supervised internal affairs, missing persons, emergency service unit, and Federal Emergency Management Agency urban search and rescue teams. And he's an adjunct professor in the Department of Law, Police, Science, and Criminal Justice Administration at John Jay College. Also with us, former police officer Lance LaRusso. Lance has over 36 years of experience in law enforcement. He has trained civilians, officers, and supervisors as a firearms and defense tactics instructor. He is certified in hostage negotiation, and he is the author of When Cops Kill and Blue News. Great to have you both here on the program. First, a story we're going to talk about tonight comes to us from the Baltimore County Police. There's a shootout after a fatal house explosion.
The following video includes graphic content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Something is going on. It jarred me out of bed. Somebody banging in somebody's front door, and then I just heard 3 gunshots. I see a man standing in the door post with a weapon in his hand, and I don't know what he did to get in there.
Baltimore County 911. What is the address?
We just had a house blow up, and the house next to it is on fire. It's on
a house exploded?
Yes.
26 house fully engulfed.
20. All right, they see smoke in the air.
Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun! Go, 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 go! Move in, move in!
44, any medic needed for that?
DC!
Where's it? 26 word?
26, shots fired, subject down.
10-4, shots fired, subject down. 642, sure exact location.
Maury and Kelly's. One subject down.
10-4, subject down.
You pass him. Come on, quick. Back. He still got the gun. Forward. Show your hands. Hands. Pull him out. Grab his hand. Pull him out. I'm coming. Have medics at 2 subjects down.
All right, how does law enforcement respond to active shooting situations like this? Let's bring in our experts. Dr. Keith Taylor, I'll start with you. Put us into the shoes of those officers. What are you thinking about? What are your concerns? What are you doing when you first get there?
So you're obviously your heart's filled with adrenaline. You're getting information from the radio about the circumstances. If there are victims, there are a million things running through your mind. But you're going to rely on your training, your tactics, things like cover and concealment, the placement of incoming officers. Looking at the victims that are out there, and most importantly, focusing on stopping the shooter. That is the primary role that an officer has when they're coming to an active shooter situation. Stopping the shooter every second they delay can mean someone else loses their life. And so the individual officer is going to do scene safety. They're going to assess the situation, see what kind of vantage point they can get, possibly to address and mitigate that the active shooter. Preservation of life is important, but in an active shooter situation, you have to stop the shooter from killing innocent individuals.
Absolutely.
And you also have to make sure you're okay as well as your fellow officer.
Lance, looking at that scene, I mean, you've got a house that has just exploded, fully engulfed. There's a fire, there's gunshots. How do you keep, and it seemed like the officer, the first one that gets out, is relatively calm. I mean, my heart would be boom, 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 boom. I don't know if I could breathe. And he's completely under control.
Well, his was too, I can assure you. We've seen officers wearing monitors even in training situations like this, and their heart rates are about 180, sometimes 200 beats per minute. One of the things that's going through their minds that you never see in Hollywood and you never hear and you can't see on this video is how many. That's what words are going through their minds. Is there more than one assailant? Because more than one assailant just changes the dynamic. This is a tremendous amount of training. This is a coordinated response. And this is the exact type of training that will go away if you keep defunding the police. This type of response takes hours and hours of coordinated training, not just with this agency, but with other agencies. If you listen to the whole video, you can hear the fire department coordinating staging, making sure you're having rescue attempts for people who are down. This takes a lot of coordination, and these officers did an incredible job.
Yeah, and incredible intensity and so many things happening at once. This is one of the most dramatic videos we've seen in a while here on the show, and it's because this house explodes. All right, next story comes to us from WEWS in Cleveland, and there police are seeing a recruitment shortage.
In police departments across the country and Northeast Ohio, the number of those stepping up to protect and serve is down.
A lot of negative press out there towards law enforcement in general, and that, detracts people from wanting to get into this.
Lorain Police Lieutenant Dan Reinhardt told me it's a trend they've been watching.
Lists would be as high as 300 people 20 plus years ago. Our last list was March 10th of 2020. And there were 31 people on it.
And the Lorain Police Department is far from alone. The number of people applying to be police officers is dwindling in communities everywhere.
When I took tests back in the early 90s, it was competitive as can be.
Bedford Deputy Chief Rick Sutch has been a police officer for 30 years. The lack of interest in qualified candidates is forcing their department to make a historic move.
We've gone from 250 on a test to 30 is a good test. So for the first time ever, we're in the middle of lateral transfers, which is interviewing people from other departments to trade departments and come work for us instead.
In East Cleveland, they are down about a dozen officers. Keeping the officers they have while trying to recruit new officers has been difficult. They are down about a dozen right now.
We have low pay compared to the private sector. But in the past, policing used to be a position where it was glorified. People were proud to wear the uniform. They were able to do the position with dignity and have some type of respect from the community. But now it seems to be a political hot button.
In Cleveland this past weekend and next weekend, 5 recruitment events are scheduled to try and attract those who want to protect and serve.
All right, here's the question. How could this impact safety in the community? I mean, people aren't signing up. They're not trying. Lance, let me start with you.
This has been a problem for years. We've seen this in communities where there are absolutely, triple digits down in departments. And how it affects the safety of the community is twofold. Number one, you don't have people that are coming in to replace people who are retiring. You also don't have people who are staying longer, who are the senior elders in the department. And that means slower response times. That means, like just what we saw in Baltimore County, instead of 12 officers showing up to a hot call where you need everybody you can find, you're going to have 2.
Dr. Keith Taylor, this is not good.
No, it's not good. And I will say that having the lack of police resources can really damage a community in very visceral ways. Police really do a lot of things that the general public they don't really think about in terms of domestic violence, in terms of working with young people. There are a lot of incredibly important things that law enforcement agencies do in terms of their relationship with the communities that they serve. There is always a time and place for reform, but the tradition of policing is a noble one. I'm third generation New York City police officer. It's not something I joined because of the paycheck. I joined because it's a calling. And, so we have to make sure that while we do take appropriate actions for malfeasance that occurs, that we also respect the dignity of the profession and that we encourage younger people to join. It
Well
is
stated.
like I said, it's a calling.
Well stated. All right. Our experts are going to stay with us. Dr. Keith Taylor, Lance LaRusso. We've got more Crime Time straight ahead, plus this.
In Davenport, Iowa, day 5 of the death of Molly Tibbetts' murder trial, as the defense case starts and they go on the offensive, calling Molly's boyfriend back to the stand. Will they point the finger at him? We talk about it tonight with our legal think tank. Plus, it's been 1 year since the death of George Floyd. A lot has changed. Our 13th juror question: have things gotten better or worse? Go to our Facebook pages and tell us what you think.
Welcome back to our Crime Time segment here on Closing Arguments. Our law enforcement experts still with us. Dr. Keith Taylor, former New York City Assistant Commissioner, NYPD Sergeant. Lance LaRusso, former police officer, now a civil attorney who represents a lot of police officers as well. Let's get to the next story. Today marks 1 year since George Floyd, 46-year-old black man, was killed at the hands of police in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You saw the trial here on Court TV. Moments of silence and rallies took place across the country to pay respect to George Floyd and honor the racial justice movement that his death sparked last year. A festival was planned at 38th in Chicago, the South Minneapolis intersection where Floyd was killed 1 year ago, which has since been renamed George Floyd Square. But around 10 a.m. today, shots rang out near the memorial site. Gunshots can be heard and people can be seen running, seeking shelter during the gunfire, in a video from the Associated Press. Do we have it?
They wanted this bill of comprehensive police reform to be... just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us. It sounds like gunshots.
Those were gunshots. The shooting reportedly occurred at the 3800 block of Elliott Avenue. At least one person was injured. Police say the suspect was last seen driving away from the scene, but have not released any further information about the possible shooter. So tonight, we're asking our law enforcement experts their thoughts on protecting communities where trust in law enforcement has been damaged, like George Floyd Square, which is basically, in some respects, an autonomous zone. You know, let's bring him back in. Dr. Keith Taylor, interested in your thoughts first.
Yes, regardless of, if a relationship between a community and police is frayed, it's up to the elected leaders, it's up to the religious leaders, the community stakeholders to get together and to work out solutions that will benefit the communities and also allow the police to do their job. For instance, in New York City, if there was going to be an event of great significance, especially, there would be planning beforehand, there would be police resources available, and these certain things would happen before that event would take place. And I'm not certain that in an autonomous zone that can actually happen. And when that doesn't happen, then you can have individuals, do things that they're not supposed to do, like firing shots. In a reckless and dangerous way for innocent civilians to possibly get injured or killed. So police and the community have to meet and work together to come to solutions that are appropriate for those communities and the police be able to do their job.
Lance, Minneapolis is the epicenter. It was 1 year ago. And then today you've got gunshots near George Floyd Square. You can hear it during the guy's doing a report about what's happening that day. And gunshots, he's got to duck out of the way. Minneapolis, one of those cities where they're down a couple hundred police, is my understanding. $8 million cut from the budget. So how do they make this all work?
Well, one of the ways you have to do it, and I talk about this in the book Blue News, all the profits go to law enforcement charities. I wanted to take that just completely off the table, that this book was intended to help people work between the law enforcement and their communities together, and law enforcement needs to start telling their story. They do amazing things every day. If you want to increase trust in people with the police, show them the video from Baltimore County, because that's what law enforcement officers are prepared to do every day. And cutting their budgets and having this idea that if we have an autonomous zone and we throw the police out, there won't be any crime there, is just so nonsensical. It's just amazing. And some of the people are coming up with ideas out of desperation, and some of them are coming up with it because they're making money out of it. I mean, they're fundraising with it. But the bottom line is the people that are getting hurt are the people in those communities. When you have shots ringing out like that in an urban area, there are people who are living in fear every day, not just when that AP reporter is there, but every day those people's lives are disturbed. And it's not by the law enforcement, it's by criminals who are taking advantage of the fact that law enforcement is being pushed away from those areas.
It's, it's such a difficult situation, a difficult, complicated issue. But Lance, I think you make some sense when you talk about police telling their story as well. I mean, I'm part of the media, and we do this segment every night, and we try to show the vast array of things that happen in that relationship between community and the police. There's incredibly heroic moments. There are some bad moments as well. But right now, it seems only half the story. The bad moments are what's making all of the headlines. And there's a whole nother story to be told. All right, let's get to our next story, which comes to us from the Columbus Police Department. A deadly shooting caught on camera.
The following video includes graphic content. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, will the surveillance video help capture the suspect? It's always, I mean, the surveillance video is great, but many times when it's just individuals and not vehicles, you don't see facial features. Dr. Keith Taylor, your thoughts?
I think that the video is extremely important to get the general public's participation in figuring out who this individual is. And seeing his clothing, his footwear, his movements, his gait, all of those things will be helpful in terms of, for individuals who know who this guy is, to be able to assist the police in bringing him to justice.
And they got to pick up the phone and make that call too. That's the other part of it. We only have about 15 seconds here, Lance. Your thoughts?
Looking at the video, there's plenty of information for them to get basic stuff, height, weight, and also this is somebody who's familiar with the area. Look at the cut through he takes. Look at the path that he takes when he's running away. I think they'll probably have this person in custody. This is the very group of people that people are trying to cut who are going to wind up solving this crime.
Dr. Keith Taylor, first time with us. I hope you come back. Awesome stuff. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Lance LaRusso, always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Soon again.
Thank you.
All right, folks, when we come back,